Los Angeles, I'm in most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Thursday, June 20th. LA Galaxy 2-0 winners over New York City. That's right, 2 goals, count them, 2, 0 goals against 0. We're going to talk about that LA Galaxy defense. We're going to talk about John McCarthy. We're going to talk about all the things that made it interesting, including why Riqui Puig wasn't on the field, why Guesman wasn't there, and yet the LA Galaxy starting to pick up that momentum. Can they carry it into Game 3 of 3? Who's going to Game 3 of 3 in RSL at altitude in the heat? You're stupid. Don't go. Anyway, we're going to talk a whole bunch about that. In order to help me do all that, we're glad to have him here. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. It's so funny
What?
that you mentioned Game 3 of 3 in the heat, in the altitude. Don't go. I have just secured my tickets for a game in July in Dallas. And it's going to be sweltering heat. Game 3 of 3 after a Rose Bowl stint and then a midweek game. It's just going to be, you know, I signed myself up for an absolute banger. So shout out to anyone who's actually making the trip to San. Is it still in Sandy or are they in Salt Lake proper?
No. They didn't move the stadium. The stadium has stayed. I think it would cost a lot to move that stadium.
Yeah, they changed the name. Fair enough. But shout out to anyone who's making the trip. So
yeah,
should be a good time. Maybe they're there where we've reset the clock on Vanny's 3-game win streak where we're now 2 again. So are we going to get there? So again, for the good vibes. We got
No.
Spoiler alert.
We were one of the things that happened before the New York City game. I'm sitting up there. Damien Cahoon is. We're watching some of the games on the inside in the press box, so they have a whole bunch of screens up there, so we can watch a bunch of the different MLS games. So we're trying to watch them. We're doing that, and then we start going over the Galaxy schedule. I'm like, when are they going to win 3 in a row, dude? And he's like, I don't know. He goes, look at the schedule. Tell me where it fits in. And like, so we think we found a small window, but quite honestly, one of the windows was you have to win in Dallas in that game that you're going to. I'm like, that seems like because it's an away game against now a Dallas team who seems like they're on the comeuppance. So
new
that's
coach,
right? Yeah, wonderful, good, great, just what everybody wanted to have happen. And then it's in the heat, and it's in the middle. It's not going to be. There's
not ideal conditions.
It's interesting to see though. Bruce Arena used to send in the kids whenever they would go to RSL, away to RSL. And usually it was a midweek game, right? Like, all this stuff in there.
Colorado was also one of those. Yeah.
Exactly. He's like, just play the kids. Like, we're too tired. I already know the guys are too tired. So play the young guys. Let's see it. Maybe they can come out there and surprise us. I think that's what is going to have to happen for RSL. They're expecting 21,000 plus. Like, it's a big game for them. They're obviously at the top of the table. They just beat Sporting Kansas City on the road. So we're going to talk about all that and get that. But before we even get there, we have to talk about the LA Galaxy's 2-0 win over New York City. General thoughts, sir, as we open up this wonderful podcast.
It was a good game. I enjoyed watching it, with the Euros going on and now Copa America joining the fold today. It has just been, they were not kidding when they said a summer of soccer from the morning to the evening, just nonstop. So that part aside, ending the game, I'm a Central Time Zone catching it a late LA Galaxy game is not something new for me, but there's been times, since I've moved here in the last 2 or 3 years where staying up to 11:30 to watch the LA Galaxy play is not so like, why am I putting myself through this?
Right.
But watching this game was really a joy. I we have to shout out Dejan Joveljic. He just keeps scoring. Say what you will about tap-ins or easy goals. You need someone who do that. Shout out to my dad as well. I know he listens. He's always watching and checking, making sure I'm looking okay. But he sent me a text. He's like, that was an Eric goal. I was like, how did I catch a stray from Dejan Joveljic?
Wow.
You know, because those are the type of goals I scored. Just found myself in the right position. But there's something to that. So Dejan, you can make fun of the tap-ins all you want, but there's something about Chicharito had it, being in the right place at the right time. Dejan puts himself in those scenarios and gets it done. So shout out
goals.
to Dejan.
11 goals. He's at 11, which ties his previous season high that he did in 2022. He had 11 goals. Now, overall in all competitions, he had 15 that year, right? So, you know, hey, we're not there yet. There haven't been other competitions yet, but the Galaxy are approaching that, right? So what does Joveljic get? How does he do this? I'll tell you right now, it wasn't just that. It wasn't just the scoring for him. That pass that he had to Fagundes is chef's kiss. That got me hot and bothered. I watched that live and I went, ooh, did I get chills? Is it hot in here? What's going on? I don't understand. Because that was such a perfect counterattack. That was such a great move. Everything about it was exactly what you wanted it to be, including Paintsil coming across to open up the space for Fagundes. And I don't know if you're the same as me, but give me a late run into the box any day. I am a late run into the box kind of guy. I get so fired up for late runs into the box. It's like, there it is. Paintsil comes inside. Joveljic passes it just behind him, so everybody collapses on him because they think the ball's head. Nope, sorry, not going to Fagundes. Wide open, and Diego frickin' Fagundes, the guy who we said at the beginning of the season would have a ton of minutes because people were going to get injured, because people weren't going to be able to play, is getting a ton of minutes and making a difference.
Yeah, that's you mentioned it about the goal and with Dejan with passings, and something that makes him different. And we've noticed it, and I hate to be this guy who keeps beating this horse. You notice it when Miguel Berry is on the field, is that Dejan is not just the poacher, the tap-in. He helps create. He gets back. He's not a liability on the ball. He moves the ball. As much as you want your striker to be selfish, and they earn the right to be selfish, to put those goals away, what you like is Dejan's vision to kind of understand the scenario around him and know when it's time to dish it. And I think his connection with Peck is really developing over these past few games. And then just knowing in that scenario that was going to be the pass to kind of break it loose and make it work. And then I'm with you with the late run into the box. How many, iconic goals are there? The Landon Donovan versus Algeria. Portugal just scored in stoppage time to win their game, kind of a late run in the box type of situation. And so Fagundes, you're right there. Someone said it in the chat, and it was so funny because I have this in my notes. He's making people say Riqui who. I know Ricky's been gone, but he's executing Vanny's game plan. I've talked about how I've kind of changed my tune about Vanny and less on the Vanny out train this season, because I'm seeing the vision of how the team, how he wants the team to be playing. And it's interesting because as much as I love Riqui, and I think you have to put him on the field, he's your best player. Right. But you're seeing a game executed without, the mindless possession. I think sometimes the frustrating part about Riqui is you have the LA Galaxy possess because they're so good about keeping the ball away from the other team, but there's no urgency. There's no runs. There's no putting it in the box, making those, cutting the lines to get in on goal. And here you're without someone who, for lack of a term, able to create and control as much as Riqui. They're forced into playing more direct and putting themselves in those situations, and they're benefiting from it. So I think, Fagundes, to me, he's had the case the last couple of games to be, man of the match and kind of in that conversation. So he deserves it. I favor the striker, the goal scorer, so I'm always going to lean that direction. But Fagundes absolutely is making a case that you're not going to call him the MVP because of the situation that he's in, but he's showing how important it is to have a starting caliber guy as your 12th man, because then someone goes down, something happens, and you have an MLS vet starter, 70 goals, 70 assists, all those things. And that's what you want. You don't want someone who's making league minimum. Well, I hope he can figure it out, or someone that you just called up from the MLS Next Pro side. Well, there's a lot of promise here. No, we know what we're getting. We're getting an established starter. And so I can't sing Diego Fagundes' praise enough.
It's funny just because everybody balks at his salary, and you sit there and you're like, it's kind of worth it. This is why it's worth it. The whole deal. The other thing, and I'll take it a little further from you, just looking at how the LA Galaxy lined up, everybody talked about, and I think all the talking heads did as well, where's the LA Galaxy's depth? Where's the LA Galaxy's depth? Well, look at the starting lineup. Because the starting lineup showed the LA Galaxy's depth, being able to bring in Fagundes, being able to bring in Cerrillo, Delgado, Fagundes, playing in for Gaston Brugman, playing in for Riqui Puig. You had,
just want to shout out Cerrillo. Cerrillo's right there. He's the next tier below Fagundes, but same thing. You bring in someone who's quality off the bench, not someone who you're going to have a lot of question mark. And to me, what Cerrillo brings is that grit, that bite.
Right.
That's something that you want. And so I really love watching him kind of go at it with the other team whenever that situation comes up, because he's not afraid of anybody. He showed it in the opening game with Messi. And so if he's not afraid to get in Messi's face, then, Malachi Jones from New York is not going to be a problem either.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you saw that. I think you saw, a little bit of the heat from the LA Galaxy in this game. There's a little testiness. There was some horrible officiating. I mean, just absolutely head scratching.
You hate to be that guy, but it was bad.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad from the very. I mean, listen. When you're in the press box, you're very much neutral, and I'm very much neutral. If you should hear me, whenever New York City makes a good play, I'm like, wow, that's a really good play. Like, look at that pass, look at that move. Oh, that's great. It doesn't matter who it is. I'm going to talk about the good stuff that's happening or the bad stuff that's happening in the whole deal. Reporters were looking at each other going, what is he doing? Why are they calling fouls? Like the first yellow card in that game, to Aude for whenever they put the ball down and run it Aude, the ball's still rolling when he kicks it at him.
A first-time offense.
And the first, the whole deal, it's like, that's not a yellow card. You can't just let them bait you into that. And then you do, and then there's like a 3-minute conversation with Joseph Paintsil.
That was the one. That's changing point.
I did not like that at all. It's over. It's done. Stop talking. Let the game go now, because now you're making it a bigger deal than you're doing. So they go through all that. I think nothing was more clear. And by the way, Lasso's Optimism, $5 super chat. Evening, gents. Love to see a game with so much dodgy reffing. Nevertheless, LA Galaxy still got the W. Sans Ricky, RSL in the crosshairs. We'll see about that.
Shout out to Lasso's Optimism.
Always.
I know he's in education. I know we're going to keep going. But I say this every time. The referee did my favorite thing, which is the best referees, you don't notice they're there. They just call the game, and then you never even realize they were there, kind of like John Nelson, on the field. You almost forget that he's out there. He inserted himself into the narrative with that Paintsil situation. And this is, the reason why I shouted out Lasso on this is because this will ring true for anyone who's in education, kind of classroom management 101. If you have to explain to someone that you're the one in charge, then something went wrong.
You're not
a referee explaining, hey, I'm in charge here. You're going to listen. Like whenever you see that, something went wrong, something went sour. And that's what it looked like the referee was doing. Hey, this is how I run it. I'm going to be the one who puts the law and order there. And it's like, it wasn't consistent from the very next play with that Aude situation. Cause then NYCFC had a similar thing and it wasn't called. And then I'm sure we'll get into the penalty, which to me was the most egregious error of the night.
Yeah, I mean, I even go to like a little bit different from that, though, right? Is that the first goal the Galaxy score is all shrouded in controversy for a different reason. Again, the things that happened didn't end up hurting the Galaxy in this night, right? Like there were some
doesn't
things...
make them less wrong.
It does, exactly, 100%. I think sometimes it's easier for us to go after the refereeing, after a wins, because otherwise, people are like, oh, homers are complaining about, the whole deal. Mm-hmm. No, it's not about that. It's about watching a game being managed and watching it be mismanaged. And I don't know if you saw this, and Greg Vanny even talked about it in the press conference, which I wasn't there for, and I will tell you why. But he talked about it he didn't see the first goal. You know why he didn't see the first goal? Because he was screaming at the AR and the fourth official whenever Joseph Paintsil got taken down just outside the box in there. Clear foul. Like it wasn't, and I quite honestly was already like typing, oh, clear foul, blah, blah, blah. And then I missed the goal as well. I had to look up and watch the replay whenever it happened. But you had New York City give the ball away, and then you had Joveljic jump in there. Peck gets the ball. Peck drives forward. It bounces off two guys out to Dejan Joveljic, and like you said, a little tap it. We're going to start calling him Happy Gilmore with all the tap it in. Just tap it in. And I think that's a good thing for Dejan Joveljic, by the way. That's all those things. So, there was a moment, though, whenever the goal goes in, Greg Vanny, not looking at the goal, but knowing it has been scored, screams and points at the center, at the AR and the fourth official. And I don't know what he said. Let me be very, very clear. But for fun's sake, if his body language matched what I would have said in that, it was something that you shouldn't be saying. But I have a feeling that's probably it. There was a I told you so. You guys can't take that one away. Blah, 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 the whole deal, because there were throw-ins missed early on. There were corner kicks missed early on. There were 2 handballs missed
from
early on.
Corey Rockwell. It's MLS Assistant Ref of the Year. When we talked about those in-the-season awards, you expect better quality from someone who comes with the accolades like Corey Rockwell does. So yeah, that was not a fun time.
And then you get into the 65th minute, which is the most egregious call of the entire night. Whenever Joseph Paintsel goes into the box, gets picked up almost by his bits and pieces, let's say. Around there, he has 2 arms wrapped around his waist. A couple hands dip a little lower than the waist. Boxing probably would have said it was below the belt, that type of thing.
It's a little lambada.
Yeah, and then he gets like picked up by one leg and dropped in the box, and there's no call. And
it was a body slam. It was someone who enjoys a good wrestling match. It was a WWE, belly to back, little suplex. There is what happened.
Yeah. So you watch that now. As someone who is a seasoned watcher of MLS, I'm like, cool, VAR will sort this out because this one's clear and obvious. And then we saw the replay, and I'm like, oh yeah, everybody in the press box like, yeah, they're going to call that back. And then it waited, and then there were subs, and then there was all this stuff. And you're like, I think he's saying play on. And I'm like, how could that...
getting subbed off was a bad sign,
he was not happy.
Yeah.
He was not happy, which you understand, like the whole deal.
Yeah.
But he comes off, the whole deal. So you're like, that's crazy, right? So... as is the prerogative of the pool reporters. There's a pool reporter system in all of Major League Soccer. It's an extremely broken system. Let's put it this way. It is crap. Whatever they did to it after COVID, by the way, it was the same before COVID and after COVID, but during COVID, that actually was really good. But after COVID, it was crap. Before COVID, it was crap, and it's gotten only crappier since then. So there's a pool reporter system that basically allows reporters, designated reporters, to ask questions of the referee. I know we've talked about this on the show before, but if you haven't been around, I want to give you the clear idea of what it is. And so on the night, there were 2 pool reporters. You have to have your name written down, like it's a whole thing. Has to be your name.
I was going to say you'll show the paper too.
I will.
That's my gripe with it, but we'll get there.
Yeah, well, there's so many gripes. But your name has to be in the referee's locker room before the game starts, right? So my name, because I'm one of the designated Los Angeles pool reporters, as is Scott French, as is Alex Ruiz. There are 3 of us who are pool reporters, and we are the pool reporters for the LA. I can't even say for the LA Galaxy. We are technically in LA for the match, right? That type of thing. But I can technically go somewhere else sometimes and all the pool reporters. So there was this whole change a while ago where they said anybody who's a pool reporter can act as a pool reporter anywhere, because sometimes people don't show up. Like if I'm not there, if Scott's not there, then you can't ask a pool reporter question. What if somebody's a visiting pool reporter? Then they could, right? The whole deal. So anyway, there's all this stuff that has to happen. So during COVID, what we would do is we would email our, because, it's 2022, right?
Yeah.
We can figure 2020, we can figure this stuff out. So we would email the LA Galaxy's PR and say, we have a pool reporter question. Then they would forward that to Pro. Pro would forward it down to the referee, and the referee and the VAR would answer, and then it would come back in this circle to us. Awesome. Basically, we would be able to ask a question, and by the time we got down in the press conference, right, by the time the press conference was over with all the different people we were talking to, we would have our answer, which means that you could even ask the coaches about it. Like, if you got it before Greg came back, you could do that. Well, in their infinite wisdom, they decided to go, and I know why they did this, it was too easy. We could ask questions anytime we wanted. It didn't take time away from what we were doing. And we got a lot of answers and a lot of questions and blah, blah, blah. It was actual communication. What happens instead is, the rule is, we have to write down our questions on a piece of paper. You're only allowed 3 questions, 1 follow-up. So basically you write it out and you try to make it so that way they can't just say yes or no to it. And you then take your piece of paper, you hand it to the PR person. The PR person then has to get that question down to the referees no later than 5 minutes after the whistle. Now, if that comes in 1 minute after the 5 minutes after the whistle, right, then we're done. They won't answer our questions. So there's a time limit. So we have to make sure. So I give it like in the 85th minute. It gets run down there. They make sure they get it. Then they have 15 minutes after the whistle, basically, and after they get the question to answer that question and then give it back to us. So I then went and waited outside the referee's locker room. Now, this afforded me some things. So let's talk about what I was able to see when I was back there, because I haven't been back in this section of the underground in a while. All right. the tunnel that we were in used to be just a main corridor tunnel. We used to walk back to the locker room all the time. We don't do that anymore. We choose to do it in the press conference and bring guys out to us, and maybe that's easier, maybe that's not. It's a whole different discussion for other things. But the LA Galaxy, all all those pictures that we see after the games of the wins, whenever they have the wins, they're all in the locker room, and they're like,
holding the three fingers,
those are lining that corridor now.
Okay.
In big size, not small size, in big size. And there's like 16, 17 spaces, and there's already a whole bunch filled up, right? And so each of those pictures is there. So as the guys walk to and from, they're only seeing pictures of the wins that they had. They're showing the things that, right? So there's this sense that as they're walking to and from the locker room and as they're headed out towards the Champions Lounge, they get to be reminded that they are winning, right? It's one of those things. I think we've seen it, like if you ever watch Hard Knocks, a lot of the teams, whenever they're walking down corridors, like you can see what the games are and what the scores are, all that stuff. So that's back there. A lot of activity going back and forth. So I'm supposed to be there 15 minutes after so I can get it. So that way I don't miss all the press conferences and all that stuff too. I missed every press conference except for the last two questions of John McCarthy because the referees, I guess, deemed it not that they could just waste my time. So instead of it being ready approximately 15 minutes after, by the way, it was easy questions. The questions basically were like, what did the referee see on the field that led to a no call and not a penalty? And what did VAR see that meant it wasn't a clear and obvious error, right? And so looking at all of these things, you're like, okay, these are going to be easy questions to answer. So they made me wait, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes for this, right?
You mean they didn't do it in a timely manner, but if you hadn't done it in a timely manner, it wouldn't have been resolved? That's crazy.
I hold here in my hand, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats. This is the piece of paper that we got from the referees. I'll give you the answers just in case you didn't see it. What did the referee see on the field that led to the no call? The referee, in this particular case, Rubiel Vasquez, says while there was contact, the contact did not raise to the level to call a foul or a PK. Okay. Number two, that means that must have meant that Joseph Paintsel embellished. So he's probably going to get fined because he embellished and dove, because otherwise the contact wouldn't have been enough to take him down. That's what they're saying in this.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so why didn't VAR see anything? What did VAR see? The VAR acknowledged the contact as well. Well, good. I'm glad they both saw contact. But it did not deem
we saw hands all over a player and a player get knocked over. But I think there was contact.
But did not deem it a clear and obvious error. One, that's a nothing burger of a response, and I've gotten better responses before. If referees want to take it seriously, stop answering questions like this.
Yeah, and then it's kind of what they want. They don't want people to ask those questions, so that's you kind of know the responses that you're going to get. The thing that's interesting is they respond that the error was not clear and obvious. This has been my thumping ground, since VAR was introduced. I'm a VAR apologist. I think VAR is needed in the game to correct the wrongs that are, when a call is offside by a hair and you miss it on the field, it's very difficult for the linesman to catch it. And so you need the technology to go back and double check it. You want the game called correctly. So I'm a proponent of VAR. The issue for me is that wording, that clear and obvious, because what it opens up, and while we disagree, there was contact. So one thing is their contact. There wasn't a play made at the ball. Then a player got, thrown down by content. So it was clearly an obvious error, from our perspective. And I think from anyone who doesn't have, light blue shaded lenses for NYCFC is going to call that a foul. Anywhere else on the field, clearly a penalty. I
would imagine you could get 75% of New York City supporters to agree that was also a penalty kick.
After you say it's already a loss.
It's already a loss. You already lost. Be honest. Yeah, that's probably a penalty kick. 75%. The other 25% can't see, but they might be persuaded as well. But sorry, continue.
But the issue with saying clear and obvious is you can say, well, it was an error, but it wasn't that egregious of an error, so we let it go. That's what it sounds like when he says there was contact, but it wasn't to the level where we can call it a foul or a penalty. There's so much gray area in there because whatever the call on the field is, and part of me kind of understands this because you don't want robots officiating the game. Right. Hey, whatever the call on the field, unless it's egregious and really obvious, then we're going to go with the call on the field. And that way, that's what you usually see with these VAR close calls is they say, hey, this was close. We're not going to look at it. We're going to go with the call on the field. And so that's the problem with clear and obvious is when it's not super obvious, you just go with the call, even though it might still be wrong. I don't know what the fix is, but the clear and obvious wording gives referees an out in a way that doesn't have the game being called with the correct decision. And that's something that needs to be fixed. I think VAR should still exist, but the way it's set up right now, there's still a lot of room for error.
Don't you think Rubiel Vasquez would be upset that VAR didn't call him over to take a look at it? Don't you think he would probably want another look at it? Because I think that's probably why it wouldn't be checked if there wasn't something to look at. So to me, whenever it's being checked, if you're not going to, you've seen it in the Euros already. I think VAR has been working. What happens is someone checks it. There's a goal check and they say, hey, it was offside. The referee blows the whistle. Right. It goes. And then if they don't change the call, then there's a ref who goes and looks at it. I think Rubiel Vasquez made his mind up about Joseph Paintsel in the first half with whatever that interaction. Whatever personal, and this is what you're not supposed to do, whatever personal interaction, he was not going to give Paintsel the benefit of the doubt. So he didn't. That's the other problem with VAR is VAR can't overrule the referee on the field, and so the VAR can say, "Hey, that was a pretty clear and obvious foul," and the referee's going to say, "Hey, I saw it differently. I'm not going to make the call." At the end of the day, they're the ones that can do it. And so to me, it made perfect sense based on the interactions that I saw with Joseph Paintsel that Vasquez was never going to go take a look at it. Yeah, it's an interesting look. Now back to the game, because I think there's still a lot of them.
The game.
I know. Listen, I mean, the email system for pool reporting is what it should be. And
yes,
they need to go back to that because they're already getting less and less mainstream reporters covering this stuff. I'll tell you right now, the Galaxy's press box is fairly full, but it's fairly full of people like me, like Alex, like Rob. Damon Calhoun is one of the, hardline reporters. He's there all the time. Damien gets a super 7 stars from me for all the work that he puts in. Scott French shows up there, but he's not there at every practice. He's not there at every training, right? It's a different landscape now. But if you're going to waste so Scott didn't even really, and I don't think Scott would mind me saying, we went back and forth. Scott was like, I don't know why we're going to ask this question. We knew we were going to get that answer.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
You knew the response you were getting.
But sometimes you have to ask just so that way they can give you the answer. And sometimes you get really great responses. I don't remember when Rolf Felcher got kicked in the chest.
You mentioned him on.
Yep.
Fotis Pizzacos. I will never forget that game. Just like Corey Rockwell.
So we got a lot of insight from what he thought he saw. He was wrong, right? But at least you were like, He gave you something. You're like, that makes sense. So this was not that. This interaction was not there. And I think if you do it by email, you stop wasting people's time. So I'd rather be asking Greg Vanny questions afterwards instead of standing and staring at a door for 35, 40 minutes, right? So
it's a waste of time. That's the sad part.
It is. And listen, they're not going to do anything about it because they don't really want the questions, right? They don't want this. The pool reporter thing is not something MLS wants to encourage. And clearly, because email worked so good, was so fast and inconvenienced so little people.
And it's timestamped.
And it was timestamped. All the stuff that you could see, clearly that was the better system and they know it, right?
Yeah.
But
and I think, again, I'm going to put this is going wild with my conspiracy theory hat. I think with the situation with referees and the lockout and kind of the strike that was going on, I don't think they want to shine a light on poor refereeing either. So I think that's also, whether it's intentional or conscious that they're doing it or not, I think that's something that's happening. Someone mentioned in the chat it reminds them of the LAFC penalty. We were talking about that, before the mics went live, that basically this is more egregious of an error than the Bouanga one. You can see Bouanga. You can see a gray area there. It was wrong.
It was wrong, but you could see the gray.
Yes.
This one, there was no gray area.
Clear.
And Greg Vanny afterwards was like, we have a problem in this league with defenders coming through attackers and there being no call. He's like, it's not a hard decision to make. Maya Yoshida had it happen to him a bunches of times, right? You've seen other instances where the Galaxy should be earning these fouls, should be earning these penalty kicks, and they're not. Listen, didn't need it on the night, right? Which is okay, which allows us to rant without putting on the Homer glasses for it, which is good, right? But I mean, the real takeaway for me from this game isn't the refereeing, although that system is broken and, that whole poor, I will put that aside. But after I've talked about it for 25 minutes, the real thing here is watching everybody play within the framework of Vanny Ball, right? And there's so many critics of Vanny Ball. Most people have no idea what they're talking about whenever they do it, because they complain they pass too much. The Galaxy are one of the most direct teams whenever they attack, right? The passing is to set up the directness. That's how this usually works, right? So you're moving people back and forth. You're trying to create overloads. You're creating movement within the midfield in order to create spaces, to create options, and then it's go. And when it's go, the Galaxy inside of that system are very good. Now, why does it not work so well with Riqui sometimes, and why does it work better with Diego? Diego Fagundes is a system guy. He plays within the system. He knows the system. Greg Vanny heaps mounds of praise on Diego Fagundes for what he's able to do on defensive side, on the offensive side. He knows how to do it. Greg talked afterwards about killing the improvisation. That's good. We like that sometimes.
Yeah.
It can't be the way that we play, because we can work with some of the improvisation if we are within the system. If it's outside of the system, then things break down. And that's where this is the big problem with Riqui Puig, right? And is it a massive problem? No. You're still going to play Riqui Puig as soon as he's ready to come back. 100% he comes back. He gives you a ton of stuff. There's almost like, and I think Andrew Wiebe was talking about this afterwards. He said that he talked to Greg Vanny a little bit, and he said, I'm hoping, the relay from Wiebe was, I'm hoping that Riqui sees how they play in the system while he's not playing.
And sees it humming.
And sees it humming and understands that if he plays within that system as well, just like Diego does, all the stuff, that he's going to be so successful, that he's going to have the goals, that he's going to have all these things that he really wants, right? And that's the big deal. Ricky's a talent above almost everybody else. As far as individual talents in Major League Soccer, he's top 5, right?
Yeah.
Easily top 5, and I don't know, maybe it would be top 3. I mean, he's so talented at what he does. Nobody else does what he does. And that includes, like, Messi is different from what Riqui does, right? At his age. Those are different, right? But nobody else does what he does. His acceleration, his ability to take 3-4 guys on and to take them out of things, right? The whole deal. That improvisation can work, but it has to be inside of the system.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was going to say the part that drives a lot of people crazy, and it's difficult because I think the U.S. men's national team does a lot, is the play out of the back and not forcing it forward. But there is the reason for that, like you mentioned. You do that to draw the attacking team. What do the Galaxy struggle most with? When teams score and then they sit back in the low block and they can't break them down. So what do? Build from the back, draw the other team out, and then with those short passes with your defenders and with Riqui Puig kind of getting out of those scenarios, then you break on the counter. The issue with Riqui is sometimes with that improvisation, like you said, those passes get too risky, and then maybe we try to do a little too much, and then instead of making the easy pass just to draw the defenders out, you end up, putting yourself exposed to the situation. So I think I see the point, and I think that's something that we need to make sure to make clear as well, is, hey, those back passes make me nervous too, but there is a reason behind it. It's within a system. It's all by design. You
know what it also tells me, though? Riqui Puig is, and this again, take this with a grain of salt when I say it, because even I know, but Riqui Puig is not, he's not dependent on the system, and the system isn't dependent on him. And
that's going to win you games also.
Right.
And playing like that is going to get you 3 points in a different situation.
And if he leaves, though, if you would get an offer for him and you sell him, then you take that money. You take it whenever you can, because yes, he's an individual challenge. He's great. He's awesome. He's not perfect for the system, right? And so all that stuff sort of plays. That being said, can't wait to see Riqui Puig back, right? And I don't know that Greg Vanny said he was questionable for RSL. I don't think he's coming back against RSL. I think they're going to try to give him as much break as they can. I think they're hopeful that he's going to be back for July 4th. That'll be the next one, right? So it'll go RSL, then San Jose, and then July 4th is the next quote-unquote home game for the LA Galaxy. So for me, this is not a knock on Riqui, but he has to learn how to play inside that system. He does that. The Galaxy are absolutely one of the best teams in the Western Conference, right? Yeah. And you can see it. Joseph Paintsel. You can see Gabriel Peck. By the way, Peck could have scored like 4 goals. We were talking. I'm like, man, dude can't buy a goal tonight, and that's okay.
He has. I forget. There was a player. I can't think of. It's not coming to me. But Ricky's kind of similar as well. Although Riqui has had some rockets, Peck doesn't have that power behind
not yet
his shots,
I agree.
And so that's the part that needs to have. He sets up the shots beautifully, but it's like he hits it with, the Nerf gun, but it just doesn't have, it's not pulled back all the way. And so that's the thing that's struggling. The thing with Paintsil that I want to highlight also, he's someone I watched Inside Out too. A little spoiler here. He's playing like someone who's finding joy again. I think the game that he went out, he was frustrated. He was upset. He didn't like the way he was playing. He maybe ran into a little bit of a slump, and then you could see now that he's getting back out there, you're seeing that joy kind of happen again. So that's something that I've seen with Paintsil's game.
Turning things, let's first super chats, then defense. Okay, super chats first. Roman $5 super chat. The three things I love in this world is beer, tacos, and corner of the galaxy. I mean, those are all great things. Those are all great things. Happy, that's awesome.
Shout out to you, Roman.
Roman, I appreciate you. I'm also a fan of all those things as well. Adam, $2 super chat. The referee for Saturday in RSL is Jair Marufo. Well, that'll be fun. Executive producer Herb is in the house. $31 super chat. Herb, always appreciate you. Thank you. Hadn't made a live show in a while. I know it's super late, but since Hammer has the B-Day decorations, super chat for your B-Day. Wonder how much Josh will send your way. Oh man, so much.
Oh man, so much. And this is actually technically a Father's Day.
Yeah, I know.
Father's Day. I got to come home to that. So shout out to the wife and kids for my balloon decoration here.
Right.
And thank you, Herb, for the. I'm sure Josh is going to send me all 31. I'm confident
absolutely, 100%.
That's going to go that way.
Yep. There's some shipping fees in that, and then some currency transfer fees, and we'll get.
Oh yeah, Texas to California. That's
international.
Right, yeah,
that's international. Gary, $5 super chat. If you could reinsert any two Galaxy players of all time into this team, with the exception of Landon Donovan and Bex, who would those players be? And thanks. I would put Landon Donovan and Bex in. I don't know why you're excluding them. That seems like the answer. No, actually, there is one he left off there, Robbie Keane. And if you could have peak Robbie Keane,
as much as I like Joveljic, Keane is deadly. He's him with some of these dishes. Joveljic, as much as I like what he does and he has the tenacity, sometimes it takes a second effort, a third effort, and that's where he gets it on that work. Keane didn't need 2 or 3 tries. He killed you on the first. He was a sniper. He was a deadly striker. So I think he's my answer who I'd put in there.
Zlatan? You can put Zlatan in. I mean,
same
answer.
Same gravy. Yeah. Again, I'm a striker. I'm a forward. You know which direction I'm going to go with that.
Chicago's Mike McGee. Whenever I always loved it because he got traded for the rights to Robbie Rogers, right? So Mike McGee goes to Chicago. Mike goes there. He wins MVP. I think was he Golden Boot that year as well?
Yeah. He had a hell of a season. Yeah.
Right. So the whole deal. And then everybody asks him, they're like, "Well, how'd you finally how are you MVP? How'd you win Golden Boot?" He's like, "Well, Bruce never let me play striker." So that was which is like just such the best answer ever, right? So.
Shout out to Bruce as well. If you ever watch the CBS Sports or the Golazo Network has those Kicking It with Kate Abdo and Clint Dempsey. There's an episode with Bruce Arena where he talks about it and kind of goes in depth about that. So if you haven't checked that out, go check out Kicking It with Bruce Arena. Nice little behind the scenes look with his psyche and his time with the national team in the Galaxy.
Did you see the guys? Did it make the broadcast? The guys who had the Barry shirts on it, just bury it. Berry. There's like 4 guys wearing Miguel Barry, and it says just bury it.
There's kind of cult hero status
right?
to Barry because it's become almost like a meme of itself.
Right.
And so there's something to it that makes you kind of want to root for Miguel Barry as well.
Yep, absolutely. Barry Blast says, speaking of Miguel Barry, he's probably in the chat room.
There he is. That's one of them.
So Josh got back to the press room just in time to ask about 3 wins. Yes, that is correct. That was one of my questions. And I asked it to John McCarthy, who is the most day-to-day guy ever in the history of guys. Don't talk to him about tomorrow. He's only John McCarthy lives in the day, man. That's where he lives. He lives right now, right here. I'll think about tomorrow, and where are we going this weekend? Where are we going this weekend? He's like, RSL, right? He doesn't even know. He doesn't care. He's like, I'm just getting on the plane. It doesn't matter what it is, right? The whole deal.
Since we're on the topic, I know we're going to talk about the defense, so this will lead into that. I have to give a shout out to McCarthy in this game as well. I thought he was great. Wasn't tons of shots. He only had 4 saves, but I've been nitpicking the ball distribution, and I think that's something a lot of people do. But at the end of the day, I was kind of reflecting on this. Do you want a keeper who can dribble around the opposing team, or do you want someone who could stop the shots? And I think if you have to choose between the two, you want the keeper. Give me the keeper who can stop the shots all day long, and that he has. And it reminded me of something that someone mentioned in the Discord, and I thought it was a really great point. And my apologies for not citing my sources here. But if we had a keeper who was, like Courtois or like Manuel Neuer, they wouldn't be playing in the LA Galaxy. And so we kind of have to make those trade-offs. We're going to get a good shot stopper, but they may not have the ball distribution. So while I may still nitpick McCarthy, and those things may drive me to a little bit of frustration. I've kind of accepted him for who he is, and I think as a shot stopper, he's probably one of the better shot stoppers we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. I think he's right there. He's come up big with some saves that, in past years we've seen the Galaxy, put goalies in difficult situations and not having them bailed out. And I think McCarthy's bailed the defense out of some situations. As good as the defense have played, I think they had, tons of block shots with NYC in this game. And I think the whole defense, in addition to McCarthy, really earned that clean sheet in this game.
Yeah, I throw Cerrillo in there, throw Delgado in there, right, as well, when we're talking about defense and what they did. I thought, actually, Gabriel Peck was very good at chasing and cornering guys out. He's getting a lot better on his defensive sort of sections and what he's supposed to be doing. So I really like that. I mean, you look at it, New York City had a 1.4 on expected goals. John McCarthy came up with the 2 really good saves that I can remember off the top of my head. So for me, you look at that and say there were chances for New York City to be in this game. And there were, much like Sporting Kansas City. And listen, the goals against SKC, allowing 2 goals isn't great, but guess what? SKC scores goals. I hate to break it to people. They also miss a lot of goals when they should score, much like New York City did. But we had talked about this and why the New York City game was a game that was more winnable than the third game of 3 on the road in altitude at heat against RSL, and this was going to be a 10:30 body clock time for New York City. They have to travel all the way over from the East Coast, even though they had a Friday game. Doesn't really help them much in this case, right? They have to come all the way over. They're there. They play. You said it, I think, in our text that we were talking about. New York City was a team in the first half. They were not a team in the second half, and the Galaxy took them out of it.
It was 11:30 at night for them in the second half, and it kind of showed where they went with it. But I like the point you made about SKC as well. And while SKC is down in the standings, they do score a lot of goals. If you hadn't looked at the highlights, go look at the RSL versus SKC highlights.
4-3.
4-3. SKC was right in that game. And RSL, we've talked about how much they've dominated, and we'll preview them in a little bit. But that just shows you SKC they're not the bottom dwellers that the standing says they are. Kind of reminds me of an LA Galaxy team from 2023.
Very much so. A $5 super chat from Adam. Do you guys think Riqui will sit out until the July 4th game? I personally think that that's a possibility. I don't know that you bring him back for the Stanford Stadium game against San Jose. I don't think he'll play
as a sub,
against
maybe on the bench.
Maybe
if he to get the health back and kind of get the legs moving.
Right.
I think you can see a Paintsill situation from his last game into this game.
One of the things, by the way, team of the week, you don't see any of the Galaxy players up there, but on the bench, John McCarthy, Dejan Joveljic, they're both there for team of the week. So that was at least something. Again, consistent team of the match day guys. We're seeing consistency. There's Galaxy players on this. Something that didn't happen a lot in 2023, let me tell you, whenever we look at this. Just going over the stats. These are all the LA Galaxy's MLS Cup winning years and where the current LA Galaxy team sits and why this means absolutely nothing because it was a long time ago whenever you look at these MLS Cups, and the league really has changed. As much as there is this stigma that losses don't mean as much in Major League Soccer, I would disagree. The losses mean something, but there's so much parity that there's going to be more losses, right? And so you're not going to have perfect teams. You're never going to have perfect teams. You don't have these teams that just dominate Major League Soccer. Any team can lose on any single day, and we've seen that over and over and over again. Galaxy only lost 3 times all time this year. That's crazy. Whenever you go back and look at, and you and I were talking about this before, 36 points all of last year.
Last season.
34 points through 19 games right now.
That's really a crazy stat to look at because to me, that tells you everything you need to know about the dropped points and where it all went wrong is that the Galaxy right now are 2 points off after 19 games than they were all of 34 games that they played last season. So that really shows how it goes. And you highlighted that it's essentially flipped exactly in the opposite with they only had 3 wins last season and now they have only 3 losses. So just it really is,
same number of draws 7, number of wins 9, number of losses 9. Like it went back. It's exactly flipped right now.
Yeah. So that to me kind of says everything about just the personnel that they brought in and everything that they've been able to do. So again, there's still, we keep saying this, and it's one of those things that I hate to be a broken record, and I like to be Mr. Peak at the right time. There's still another level to this team. We haven't seen this Galaxy team in their final form, and I think that's the really exciting part. They're winning without Puig. They're winning after people go down with injuries. They're winning these games where maybe it doesn't look like they're playing a complete game, but they're walking away with 3 points, or maybe a draw, at the death where maybe it looked like they were going to be down and out and not going to get any points from it. So those are the types of things that you want to see as they build up to it. So whether it's going to peak towards the end of the season where they're going to go on a run in the playoffs, or if this is something that builds into next season, this is really the foundation of something that is going to be, you mentioned it, teams not really dominating, but it's funny in the recent seasons we've seen with Toronto and, the guys across the corner from us, putting some of these consistent, you do get hot, and that is a thing that happens. And so I think you see a lot of streaky teams, but when you look at the roster, you say that team really went on to score the most points in MLS. And it's kind of a crazy thing to see. So there is a lot of parity, there is a lot of streakiness as well. And so the feast and famine, the difference between last year and this year, you're seeing it. And that happens with teams all over the league as well. So it's more holistically over multiple years as opposed to each season is its own kind of wrinkle that you look at.
Yeah, you're looking at overall, by the way, the LA Galaxy off to their sixth best start, tied for the sixth best start in franchise history through 19 games. I will say this, during the Greg Vanny years, which started in 2021, Greg Vanny in 2021 had a team that had 35 points through 19 games. Did that team make the playoffs? No, they did not. All right, so...
Yeah, that's crazy too.
it is crazy, right? And whenever I look at what happens, like it starts right about now where the collapse started, right? So this is it. I think the next 10 games for the LA Galaxy are critical just because you look at sort of that'll take you to 29 games, and that's a lot, and I understand that. But when you look at the schedules and how they're sort of let up, again, we said we only have 7 or 8 games after that, after the Leagues Cup, right? So a lot of this should actually be decided before the Leagues Cup breaks. So you have the rest of this June schedule and into July. That's it. That's where you're at right now. And if the Galaxy can be in a position where they're at right now, there's a good chance that they're going to finish well above the line. In third place right now, which is good. In third place right now, for me, I see them as a team that should be continuing to climb. That should be in that second spot. That could be in that first spot. I don't think that Real Salt Lake is like light years ahead of everything. And by the way, it just feels like the Galaxy are right on top of them. They only have 2 losses all year. By the way, one of those losses was at home to Colorado. They're not invincible, but that was a long time ago when that happened as well.
That's what I have. Their last loss, and since we're getting into their last loss was March 10th. That's a really long time. And their other loss before that was the first game of the season, the opener against Miami.
Yep.
And that was at Miami at the beginning of the season. So that's why I mentioned the streakiness, because to me, we saw it last year with St. Louis. They got really streaky at the beginning, and then it all kind of, started to fall apart towards the end. So that's what Salt Lake reminds me of. While applaud the talent and what they've been able to do, it still feels like they're not this big juggernaut that you're staring at going, man, how are we going to possibly take down Salt Lake? Especially towards the end of the season. I don't know how we're going to be able to break them down. That's not the vibe that I'm getting from that team.
Diego Fagundes said it, and he said it now, I think, multiple times. He said, over 90 minutes, I think that if we play the way that we want to play, that there's nobody we're really scared of. That's straight up. This is a very confident team. It's good that they're confident. You want that. They do feel it. They do see it. And I think that that's important to point out. The fact that you can go back and look at this chart again that shows all of the Galaxy through the entire history of the franchise, and look at where the Galaxy say, and this is the 6th best start the LA Galaxy have ever had through 19 games, says something. It also says something that whenever you had a team that had 35 points, they didn't make the playoffs. So in the same position, that's why these next games really important for the LA Galaxy as they go forward. The other one I wanted to highlight, one of my favorite charts, our goal projection charts. How many goals are the Galaxy going to score? Well, right now they're projected to score 66.2 goals. How many defensive goals are they projected to allow? Well, right now they're at 48.3. Do I need to remind you what it was last year? I will. 67 goals they allowed last year. So if we take it, if we take it to 50, that's 17 goals better than where they were at right now. These things can change. They always can change. There's still a ton of times left to have these modulate and go all over the place. At one point, that offensive goal was projected was up into the 80s, right? Now it's into the 60s. The 60s, by the way, still really good. So don't even like if you're in the 60s, you would be better than the 2018 had 66, 2014 had 69. You can go all the way back to 1998, which was 85.
Yeah.
So if you're in the 60s, and the Galaxy right now are on pace for 66.2, right? So if you're in that prop, you would have the 1, 2, depending on where that, you would be tied for the third most goals the LA Galaxy have ever scored, and the second most in the modern era.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. Yeah, not the overtime or did they do golden goal? Now I can't remember. I know they had shootouts, but I think
they did do golden goal. There was that type of thing too. There was
what a time to be alive.
But you could go in here if you go look at the goals against, and again, if we're predicting that they're at 48, 2020 they allowed 46. All right, that would be you'd have to go back to 2016, where they allowed 39 to be underneath that. So that's a significant jump.
2020 is also shortened season.
That's absolutely correct. So, and 2020, I think if you projected it out, they would have allowed something like 70 something goals, right? So we projected it out. I actually have that one. That whole season projected out would have been 70 goals. It's actually worse than what it was.
It would have been their worst defensive season if you project it out, if I remember correctly.
It is absolutely correct. That is 100% correct. So some good shot on that. I mean, looking at the standings again, Galaxy in third, Galaxy in fifth overall in the Supporter Shield, tied with LAFC. LAFC has a game in hand, just 3 points back from Minnesota. You look at who they're playing next. They obviously go to RSL, and then they play San Jose, who's currently in the very bottom of the Western Conference. So that's where we sort of sit with that.
Yeah, I think the goal, I've mentioned this, I think the year that they did get a home playoff game, that should be number one with a bullet, should be the expectation after these first half of the season.
Top four
should be where you want to land. And then when you look at where spot number 9 is right now, which is Austin, they're at 24 points. And so I think you'd see a 10-point difference. I think if they keep playing, I just don't see them dropping out of this picture. So again, all things considered, a lot of things can change, a lot of things can go sideways, but I feel like they are in the position right now where they are going to know what they need to kind of stay within that top 4. And I think that's huge as well, because they're not chasing it. They're not getting desperate. It's, I saw the chat jumping in with the must win. Do you have to win?
They're just
important,
They're
crucial.
just doing that to try to get a rise out of me. I've been ignoring it.
But again, you're not in those situations when you're sitting in third place. That's the point where I want to land, is where you need to keep yourself above, and that changes how you play as well and keeps some of that pressure, because we saw last season when you have that desperation pressure from outside forces, it does impact how the players play on the field.
Yeah, you can see it. LA Galaxy getting ready to play at Real Salt Lake in Sandy, Utah at America First Field. It is a 6:30 p.m. TV start time. 6:40 p.m. is your kickoff on MLS Season Pass. So a little bit early because it's in Mountain Time. So you get that.
I was going to say Mountain Time. People say, is that real?
Yeah, it seems it's fake. In Arizona, it's fake because they go back and forth. 10-2-7 RSL, 9-3-7. Only that one loss difference. And if you look at the LA Galaxy's 2 losses that they had against Austin and against Chicago, man, there's a real argument that perhaps the Galaxy shouldn't have any losses at all, especially whenever you look at how they screwed up that call in the Miami game, right?
Yeah.
But having said that, they absolutely earned 2 losses against Austin and Chicago, because boy, did they play like crap.
Yeah.
So
they earned those. Yeah, you're right.
100%. You look at the LA Galaxy, 20 wins for RSL, 24 wins for the LA Galaxy, 15 draws total. One of the things that's coming up, obviously, is the beach cleanup and watch party on June 22nd, so that's coming up. Join us, the LA Galaxy, as we clean Cabrillo Beach with the LA Galaxy Foundation from 3 to 5 p.m. at Cabrillo Beach in San Pedro, California. And then it's meet Cosmo and the Star Squad after at San Pedro Brewing Company for an official LA Galaxy watch party. So just keep that in mind as you're out and about, if that's something you want to do. We had already talked about it, Eric. This is, of course, the team that went 4-3 against Sporting Kansas City. By the way, it was 4-2, and I'm like, that game's over now, finally. And then it was 4-3 again. It was like
in the
that
90th
game.
minute, yeah. Crazy finish.
Back and forth, everything in between. I think RSL's going to have some tired legs from that game. That was a stretch of a game.
That's the part that I always I'm not going to say it makes me upset, but whenever we talk about, well, it's game 3 of 3 for the Galaxy, so obviously they didn't look good and they looked rusty. Well, it's game 3 of 3 for the team they're playing against as well. And so for whatever reason, that's never part of the conversation. But I think when you see the goal output that happened in this game and the effort that they needed to secure that win, I think it is going to impact RSL. It is going to be game 3 of 3 for them. They are coming off a situation where they had to defend the lead. And I know they had some squad rotation happening, but you saw a lot of the big names and the big the big players were involved in that game also.
Yeah, and they went out and got it done on the road, right? And so that's always important. And, I'm sure that MLS in their power rankings will say that, oh, man, because whenever they said just getting a Sporting Kansas City game at your house is like the easiest game you could possibly have, the whole deal. I'm sure they'll say that about RSL going to Sporting Kansas City as well. No, it was a really good battle by them. Look, this is the Chicho Arango show. That's you want to know. You want to know what you need to worry about? It's Chicho. It's going to be Chicho. And by the way, they have a great supporting cast as well that'll throw goals in left, right, and everything else. But it really does revolve around Chicho. He is speedy. He is smart. He is technical. He will annoy you. He will test you. He will do everything. So, huge test for the LA Galaxy defense. This is, in my mind, you're going to RSL. It's going to be hot. It's game 3 of 3. You're at altitude. You are at all those disadvantages, right? If I'm Greg Vanny, I rotate some in this, and I put some of the kids in to start this game. I get a little younger. Now, do they have a whole bunch of rotation available? No, they don't, because there's people injured. So it's not going to be a crazy rotation, right?
They do have some MLS Next Pro that they've called up. So again, Vanny hasn't shown that Bruce Arena's school of throw the kids out there and see what you can do. But the roster indicates that is a move that they can make. And so I'm with you. I think you definitely need to see some squad rotation. I think that is whatever, they looked at and they made deals with the devil or whatever it is, that this may be the game. I hate to use this term, but like the scheduled loss, where, you put Barry out there as your starter. We've kind of seen what his record is. You put, some of these younger guys in situations to get them minutes, and maybe something happens. And if you're still in this game, maybe you sit back, you try to defend and survive, and then you play the smash and grab. We've seen with the Euro, some of these lower ranked nations go in against some of these big powerhouses, and that's how they walk away with success as well. So we're not saying that the Galaxy is, lower ranked, but if they are playing players who don't normally start, then you're kind of going at it from that perspective. It's tough to watch from the fan perspective, but you totally understand the gamble and the risk that you have to make when you do that.
Yeah, Marvin asking, by the way, key to stopping Chicho. He's one of those guys you don't really stop. You contain. Yeah. You hope he has an off night, quite honestly, because he is that good. He really is. He's such a star. He's tops of my MVP list right now, along with Luciano Acosta over at Cincinnati. Yeah. Those two are my tops right now, and I don't think it's close really for like third place there. I'm like, it's those two right now.
I think the Panda kind of mentioned it, how much of it is just goals and then how much of it is goal contributions. When you look at Chicho Arango, his stats, he has 16 goals and 10 assists, so 26 goal contributions. That tells you where the issue is. And I don't want to overrate him, but we were mentioning a guy like Robbie Keane who just doesn't make mistakes and is going to make you pay. Chicho is that guy. While they do have guys like Andres Gomez and Anderson Julio, people who have made the Galaxy nervous in the past, I always, my favorite thing that I like to say, who scares me on this team? Chicho scares me on this team. And so I don't know that there's a way to shut him down, but the defense has to really kind of be aware and put themselves in situations where they're not going to. Basically, what you don't want is what happened last time he was at Dignity Health Sports Park. Leave him alone, where he's all by himself, available to put the ball away. Just making sure someone is on him like a shadow. That's, again, that's overly simplistic. That's my U9 coaching license that I have. You just stick on that guy. Run after that guy. Get in his way. You don't have to get the ball. Just make it difficult for him. I think that's kind of the direction where you have to go if you're going to try to take care of him.
It's a Surreal job.
Yeah.
Put Surreal on him.
That's fair.
I like that. By the way, MLS debuts for Tucker Lepley and Isaiah Parente, who both played in the Galaxy's game against New York City. I imagine both of them probably still available whenever it comes around time. So as we say on the block, which is what we do, put me in some Tucker Lepley. I'm in on that. I'm almost like, throw the kids in there and let them ball, let them run until they can't run anymore, and let them make RSL tired. Let everybody get tired in this game, and then try to steal the game, because that's how you win these games on the road. Score first if you're the LA Galaxy. Score first and then make RSL come back. By the way, RSL's coming back. This team is not dead until they are dead, until the whistle is blown and you are on the bus. You cannot take your foot off the gas. You cannot sleep. This is one of the best tests for this LA Galaxy defense. I'm of the opinion the LA Galaxy defense is getting better. There's lots of people who like to whine and complain and say, no, that's not. It is. By a lot of metrics, it's
They just had a
better.
clean sheet.
They just had a clean sheet. And by the way, they earned it. There was block shots. There was everything. There was good saves by McCarthy. You got a complete defensive stand against New York City. You almost had one, quite honestly, against SKC. There were some 2 boneheaded plays that led to goals, right? And listen, that's usually what happens with goals, so you can't dismiss it. But that's what I'm saying. So this is a good test. This is a good bellwether, even though you're tired. Show me you want it. I mean, this is one of those. Just show me you want it.
It reminds me of Johnny Perez against Chicago. Vanny put the trust in him to start, and he set the work. He earned another start because of that performance. So maybe this is even
Cuevas is the guy who's going to come out. This is because he's had 2 games in a row where he's come on and Greg Vanny's been impressed.
And he probably deserves to start as well. Yeah, you're right. He's done that. I'm even thinking someone like Ruben Ramos Jr. I know he's super young, but it's like, hey, you're the young kid. Johnny Perez is not here to be that spark plug. Go out there for 45 minutes, for 60 minutes, and just I think you mentioned it, play 90 minutes in 60 minutes and see what you can do. Put all the effort out there, and maybe you shine the diamond or whatever it is. Like figure it out, and you can put the rough youngster out there and maybe see what he can do, and he can do something special to get you something away at RSL in game 3 of 3.
Gary gave us $2 super chat. Says I love COG. Gary, we love
simple.
you. It's
to
simple.
the point.
It's,
Gary's
I
always
love
there.
All right, then let's talk. Well, first of all, there says any news on Perez. Perez is out, and he had a grade 1 hamstring strain. Expected to be out 2 to 3 weeks, and then back into return to play. So figured that's a month before Perez comes back. Riqui Puig day to day, questionable for this weekend. I think he'll be less questionable against San Jose. And I think they're very much targeting that game on July 4th to.
They have that one circled for sure. Yeah.
With Guesman Brugman, one step forward, unlike the Paulo Abdul song, one step forward, one step back, not 2 steps back. So we're seeing him sort of come back, but then he's having pain, and then he's stepping and he's coming back. Before we get to D ratings and talking about that, for the July 4th game, I want to go over one more thing. One is I enjoyed immensely everybody questioning, and by the way, not Galaxy fans, but LAFC fans. Whenever I said the Galaxy were outselling LAFC 6-1 and all that stuff, there were lots of people who were like, "Who's even that podcast?" It's like, "Oh, tell me you're new here." That's like that. That's one of those. There is one thing I wanted to that I got more information on, so I was talking to some sources. The LA Galaxy's supporter sections, okay? This is supporter sections, not the whole LA Galaxy sections, but just the supporter sections. As of at some point in the last week when it was last checked, the LA Galaxy supporters are outselling all of LAFC's sections, okay? We were talking about this at halftime and what that means. And it's like, hey, they're not showing up because they want to show, maybe they don't want to show that this game is important, right? Maybe they're not making it a priority because they're like, man, we're not going to go there. Maybe it's too expensive.
We did it last year, or we lost.
We lost. I don't want to go again. A little bit of its
luster, yeah.
As everything that I'm told right now is that it is very lopsided in terms of what you're going to see when you get there. It's going to be a lot of white shirts and not a lot of black shirts. That has chances to fill in. I'm not saying it won't, but where it's at right now, there's going to be a noticeable difference. If this is lighting a fire under them, which I think at one point, I'm sure
they were sharing QR codes and all kinds of stuff.
So
making fun of the discount tickets.
Let me talk about the QR codes because
Mm-hmm.
this is really important. I saw that. I saw the QR codes because there was a QR code for free tickets, right? And that got shared out there. That QR code for free tickets was shown at an AEG employee event.
Yep.
Because they wanted to give tickets to AEG employees. Isn't that kind of cool though? Like if you work for a place, wouldn't you want them to give you tickets? And as it was explained to me, being you're part of AEG where we have all this access to concerts and sports teams and all this.
It's a perk of the job.
It's a perk of the job, right? The whole deal. So wouldn't we want to do that? And so I don't think, the context was certainly lost with that picture, but as far as I'm concerned, that's awesome. I don't care. Yeah. I could care less. I don't care if the whole AEG company shows up, because they're all want to go. That's not going to happen, but that's the context of those QR codes.
Yeah. And the thing to me is we saw this movie play out last season. We know how this goes. I think last season, because of the boycott and the shift in the game, there was some questions about, how bad is it going to look for the Galaxy? Who's going to show up in the stadium? And, are we going to get outshined, by someone who's coming off, an MLS Cup victory? And then you saw the Rose Bowl, and it was noticeable that it was pro Galaxy fans. And I mentioned it last year as well, and I'll mention it again. There's years of history, over 2 decades of history,
almost 3
of
decades.
fans who have been building and have their kids coming to games, and this has grown over years. They're still the new kid on the block, and I'm not going to overly bash them here, but you're still new. You're still a growing fan base. So when you have a venue the size of the Rose Bowl, as much as you are in your circles with your diehards and you say, we're going to go and we're going to show up, you're not going to hold a candle. It's not going to be the same thing. So it makes sense to me that, the Galaxy supporter sections or it will be a Galaxy home game, essentially. It will be. And that's not, I know we like to make fun. That's not a knock on the other friend. It is what it is. Whenever you have a bigger venue, you're going to outsell them because there's just more history. There's more fans. We've had a longer runway to get there. And again, it is what it is. We saw how it played out last year when the Galaxy were in a really rough spot and with a boycott, and they still, looked noticeably like the home team in that stadium. And I think you're going to see it again this year.
Yeah, it's the way that we know like what tickets are what and how that's all going is like you pick a section to sit in. So unless you're like an LA Galaxy fan and for some reason you wanted to sit in the LAFC section, which
I think those LAFC fans who are going to end up in the AEG employee section,
they're getting moved.
That's going to be a fun time. Yeah,
yeah, have fun, enjoy that, right? The whole deal. So certainly it's one of those. That's what's happened. I don't know. Somebody said in the chat room, I don't know if it's going to be. I'm not anticipating it's going to be a record. That's not. I don't think it's going to be. One is I think listen. It was going to be the opening game last time.
Yeah.
And then it got rescheduled, and then it got moved July 4th. You already had tickets. You're like, I guess I'm going to go. July 4th, people have stuff to do sometimes. Like it's not perfect. By the way, you can always usually sell out the Dignity Health Sports Park.
I was going to say,
of people who want to do
July 4th. Some of the things that they do is going to watch the Galaxy. I know 100%. They have the record streak for under time. So this is a thing that people do. So I get why they made it an event. But also, I also see the other side of it. My favorite thing, talking about of both sides of my mouth. I think I've had 4 favorite things. So I like saying my favorite thing as my favorite thing.
Right.
But I also see the other side where the novelty wore off.
Right.
You did the Rose Bowl last year where it was like a special event, a one-off. Now we're going back to it, and maybe it loses a little bit of that magic.
I think
just
so.
like playing the rivalry games 3 times a year.
I don't know if it'll go back again. I don't know if they'll do it again next year.
Yeah.
By the way,
which is good.
You saying my favorite things all the times reminds me of one bite. Everybody knows the rules if you know about the pizzas, right? At one bite, everybody knows the rules, and then there's 7 bites. So obviously, 100%. Now let's get to D ratings. Do you have D ratings? Are you ready to go?
I do have D ratings, and it's not pretty, which is a good thing because again, when it's pretty is usually when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
Right now, D ratings has the Galaxy at a 26.6% chance to win. They have Real Salt Lake with a 48.8% chance to win. So again, 24.6 for a draw. So I know you saw it. 50% chance of
a point or better.
A point or better. So again, there's something there. And so but RSL still the heavy favorite 2-1 essentially. When you look at the money line, Galaxy plus 310 is the best line right now. Real Salt Lake minus 130, a draw at plus 315. Over under set at 3.5. So they are expecting a lot of goals to happen in this game.
But it's game 3 of 3. It's game 3.
Under
go under
is minus 130. So I think they are leaning more heavily on the under.
Okay.
So again, I would go with the under as well. Again, not a financial advisor, but I'd go with the under.
Minus 130 sucks though. Okay, cool. By the way, if you wanted to know the LA Galaxy's chances and what they've done so far with a point or better, they have gotten a point or better 84.2% of the time this year. They have a 47.4% win chance. They're almost at a 50% win chance right now. That's a huge number. Again, going back to 2014, MLS Cup winning year, 50% win percentage, 79.4% point or better. Let's go to 2011 because that's the one that's always 55.9% wins percentage. All right, 85.3% of a win or better. Only a 14.7% chance of losing in 2011. What's the loss rate right now in 2024? 15.8%. Not saying, but I'm just saying. All right?
This one always hurts my brain when you get to this one.
It's a chart I totally made up. There's no. I want everybody to understand. There is nothing in any stats that I've ever seen that says, oh, when a team is good at getting a point or better, then they're a good team. It means nothing. But to me, it's like it means you're not losing. It means you're not losing. That's what it means. It means you're not losing. It means you're finding ways to get points. It means you're doing stuff, right? And by the way, one of the best years in there, I think, is 2016 when they had like 17 draws or whatever it was, right? It wasn't a good year, but it does. The chart says that it was an okay year as far as that looks. So win percentage was lower, though. I'd like to point out, that type of thing. But point percentage was just fine. All right, predictions guaranteed to be wrong, Sir Eric. What do you got with RSL? And I think we lost Eric for a second. We'll wait. He'll come back. Whenever I sit here and I look at what we could possibly be doing, as whenever we look at the LA Galaxy and what they could do in this game. Again, hard fought game for me. And for me, this is a big deal. But for me, I think that the Galaxy have a chance to steal this game. Do I think they're going to? No, I don't. But I think that it's within their power to try and steal a game or two. And this might be one of the ones where you might be able to steal something. So for me, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw, Eric. I'm going 1-1 draw. How about you?
Well, game 3 of 3. You're without Riqui. Vanny 3-game win streak on the line. There's no way that we're winning this game. But this is the bizarro LA Galaxy. Everything is yin to last year's yang. It doesn't make any sense why they would win this game, but that's exactly why they're going to win this game. I'm going to say that the G's steal 3 points. I'm going to call it 2-1. So you're still getting the under. I think they somehow managed to keep it 1-1 late. Maybe you get Miguel Berry, Ruben Ramos Jr., someone who unexpected gets that goal. I'm saying they're going to win just because it doesn't make any sense. Because why would Vanny get the 3-game win streak against the first place team when he had the chance to do it against the last place team and couldn't get it done? No. Why would it happen this way? So this is exactly why it's going to work. So I'm reverse jinxing it.
Conspiracy theory. They win against RSL. They beat San Jose, and now they have a 4-game winning streak going into the Rose Bowl where they win again. Then it's
they win again.
Yeah, 5 wins in a row. Dejan Jovalic. God bless him, okay? John McCarthy may not pay attention to 3 wins in a row, and yes, I got back just in time to ask John McCarthy about 3 wins in a row. John McCarthy may not talk. Dejan Jovalic talked about it, and I wasn't even there, all right? He was like, I want to win 3 in a row, because then you can win 4 in a row, 5 in a row, 6. I like how he thinks. You can't win 6 in a row until you win 3 in a row, and that's where Dejan wants to go, right? So that's where we're going. I like it. So those are your predictions, guaranteed to be wrong. Super chat from Gary, $2 super chat. Train Club news. I like how we've now made this part of everything.
We need some jingle with a little engine.
Yeah,
train news.
I'm sure. Don't say it to Ray. I'm sure he's listening.
There goes the $31 from Herb. Someone's getting a Fiverr creating a jingle.
Somebody, it's Ray will be on it in no time. But yeah, Train Club news. So we don't run again until the 20th and 21st of July. We only run one public weekend. Now we do birthday parties and everything else, and then we work out there almost every weekend. So I'll be out there this weekend. If any of you guys want rides or anything like that, send me a text, and I'll a DM on Twitter or DM on Instagram or something like that, and I'll get to it, and then I'll invite you out. That's how it works. You don't have to go on the public run days, but I'm more than happy to share my love of that hobby anytime.
The Josh Guesman private tour with a train ride, it doesn't get any better.
There are people within the LA Galaxy front office who come up and ask me about it all the time. They're like, "Oh, can I come down? Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun." I'm like, "Yeah, I feel like you guys are making fun of me." I mean, that's what it feels like. Yes,
kind of. Yes. But also, again, it's the same with the podcast. Whenever someone is so passionate about something, you have to respect it. And so what the trains, like, you want to make fun of it, but then you get out there and you hear you talk about it and you get on, you're like, this is pretty darn cool. Am I into trains now? So I get it. So again,
you went out there and you're like, do I want to spend $45 on a membership?
I want a little tiny train. Is this silly? But then I had a great time.
See, that's it. But by the way, if you can't win 3 in a row, according to Darren, you can't win a trophy. Galaxy 2-1. That's what he's saying. I will say this: the Galaxy. I think the best story in the world is the Galaxy don't win 3 in a row all season, only to go into the playoffs and run it.
That would be great.
All right, that is what you want. You know what that does, Eric? That puts the roulette thing in the favor of the LA Galaxy. You want to be on that underside. You want to be on it's got to come up red. It's been black every time. It's like, you can't win 3 games in a row. Well, now you're in the playoffs. So can you win 3 games in a row? Oh, look at this. They can win 3 games in a row. How about 4? How about 5? Oh, look, MLS Cup champions. Not saying that's what it is, but it would be fun. Darren says we should put Maya Yoshida on a little tiny train. I think he would have a good time.
I think he'd enjoy it too. I think who'd have fun? Miki Yamane.
Miki would have a great time.
He would have a blast. Yeah.
By the way, I saw Martin Cáceres in his street clothes. The guy doesn't wear sleeves ever. Just does not wear sleeves. Like it doesn't. I'm surprised he had a shirt on, so that was a plus. But it's like just that's my. I just.
Why would you?
I don't. Looking like him, I wouldn't. Okay, I wouldn't. It's really nice to be the shape that I am and go and like hang out next to professional athletes. It really puts everything in perspective for you. At least after Matt, who's in the chat room right now, said in the Discord after they saw LD's, haircut that was going on. Matt goes, well, at least Josh knows what knows what not to do whenever he has this problem in 3 years. So thanks, Matt. I still think about that. Man. It's in Brutal. His head really bad, like the whole deal. LD just getting some plugs in, man.
He's got to go to Turkey. We saw him in January. This should have been taken care of. It should much sooner.
It should have been earlier.
Yeah, this was not the time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else? You good?
Just some shout outs to the Creative Retail channel on Discord. If you're not already following, we mentioned it, with our good friend Nelson connected to the LA Galaxy. That is your direct line to the organization about what you want to see with collaborations. There's tons of collaborations coming out soon. I know there are many of them that are years in the making. And then again, if you're in that channel, there may or may not be some leaks of merch that is becoming available. So again, if you're not already on the Discord, then what are you doing? Because again, if you're seeing these leaks, maybe there's some shoes that, an Adidas employee may have seen before. And if you're not on the Discord, you may not see it. I know the Gazelles were a hit. So maybe think of something along that vibe with maybe a little old school. We've talked about some, my conspiracy theories with colors that might be coming out. So go to the Creative Retail channel on the Discord. That's my little plug if you're not already there.
I like it. No, it's good. That's what you should be doing. Okay. I think that about does it. LA Galaxy taking on RSL coming up on Saturday night, 6:30, 6:40 is your kickoff time. MLS Season Pass is where you can find it, so head on in that direction, and we'll see. Hey, maybe we come back on Monday and we get to talk about the Galaxy winning 3 in a row. Maybe we're resetting everything and everybody's whining and complaining again about how the Galaxy can't win. Turn it back. We should have like a little counter in the back over here that says like wins. It's like
0 days.
Right, 0 days. Yeah, exactly. 100%. All right, Eric, tell people where they can find you, and we will go.
All right, as always, you can find me on everything at HammerEV9, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun things, at HammerEV and the number 9.
If you're looking for me on Twitter and X, it's at Guesman, at Galaxy Podcast, cornerthegalaxy.com. That's always where you can find all of our stuff. Head on over to Apple, iTunes, YouTube, all those fun places, Spotify. You can find our podcast there. Like, subscribe, do all that fun thing. Smash that like button. So get on over there, and of course, we will see you out whenever the games are once again returning to Disneyland Hall Sports Park, but the Galaxy away for 2 at the Rose Bowl for the next one. So a lot of games coming up. The next 10 games are critical for your LA Galaxy. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.